Hi everyone, I'm Kevin and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about eggs in the backcountry, how to package them and how to use them when you get there. So this might not be the best option for everyone, but you could bring chickens with you into the backcountry. Each chicken lays about 1 egg per day, so I recommend 2 chickens per person.
It's Kevin Ride. It's Kevin Ride. Look at this.
Hello. Hello, Kevin.
Kevin Ride. Kevin Ride.
A couple of Kevins. Well, I got your book too, and I remember I told you I got a collection of autographed books. I've got you wedged in here between Farley Mowat and Mordecai Richler.
That's an interesting wedge. I'm glad to be the meat in your sandwich. Really? Are you serious, Farley Mowat? And really? What? Wow. All right.
Well, I've got some other ones, but that's where I'm keeping you right now.
Okay.
Good company, I hope.
Wow. Yeah, it is. But who's the spice mustard and the pickle in that sandwich?
That's you.
Oh my Lord. All right, Kev. How
are you keeping?
I'm good. I'm good. It's great to chat with you about a bunch of things, but we got to focus. We got to focus.
Okay.
Who got you going into this outdoor thing? Like what happened?
Climb over the board. Okay. Ready?
Yeah. Kind of like you, I grew up in a rural area, and my dad was a hunter and a trapper, and he went fishing, and so that rubbed off on me a little bit. I think the biggest influence though was Scouts. I was always in Scouts from a young age, Cubs, Scouts, Ventures, Rovers, and did a lot of camping, got the camping bug. Even in college, in Cégep in Quebec growing up, we had to take phys ed credits, which was awesome. And we had an outdoor ed program in my college. So, I remember taking a course that was all about backpacking up Mount Washington in New Hampshire. So, so I had a lot of those good influences.
So you basically love the outdoors. You work in the outdoors. You're a forester up in Thunder Bay, as they say, Thunder Bay, and Thunder Bay. And they ended up two Kevins together. We talk like that, Thunder Bay.
T-Bay. We call it T-Bay. The cool kids call it T-Bay.
Is it really? Actually, I've never heard that before.
It's a new thing in the last 10 years or so.
So all of a sudden, a couple years ago, you wrote this, how to eat in the woods. Look at that. I even got it marked.
Yeah.
I even have it marked. I read this book because I've got it marked.
This book, Backcountry Eats, is all about making great dehydrated meals for backcountry adventures.
So what happened? What happened?
I was getting into backcountry tripping and going deeper and deeper, and I got into dehydrating food so that I could support my trips, right? I realized partway through it, I tell the story at the beginning of the book. A friend of mine was on a trip with me, and he's not a canoe tripper, and he's like, "We're eating sweet and sour pork on day 7 of a trip. How is this possible?" And that's when I realized I had something a little bit different. And I've got a bunch of other books, older books on dehydrating, and I'm like, I just knew I had it in me to write something that was a little bit better than what existed and could offer more.
Well, why don't people just bring that packaged stuff? There's a whole bunch of stuff at the store, the dehydrated packaged meals. What's with that? Why not do that, Kevin?
Yeah. I get a lot of comments about that on my channel and other media. By the way, yes. Cheers.
Look what I'm having.
Ooh, Old Forester. That's nice. That's pretty good.
Good bourbon.
I got some gray in my beard, and I'm an Old Forester, so I'm just drinking the Glenlivet. I haven't even had a sip yet. The Glenlivet 12. A few years ago, my wife got me the double oaked one for Christmas, and that's kind of a nice one now.
That's good. That's good Scotch. Actually, that's a better Scotch than what I'm having. This is a bourbon.
But I like the name of that one.
Yeah, that's why I bought it.
Yeah. What was the question again? It was, why don't you bring the store-bought stuff? Well, I get lots of comments about that. Number one complaint I hear is it's full of salt. Another one is they're not right-sized. Some people, they may say they serve 2 or 3 people, but they They don't usually. Um, and you don't know what's in them, like preservatives and that kind of thing. I mean, you can read the side of the thing, but nobody likes that these days. And a lot of people also have food issues. They've got to deal with lactose intolerance or gluten intolerance or whatever. So making your own meals allows you to tailor it to your needs and do your own thing.
Well, if you're going to dehydrate your own, which I do, I agree with you with all that.
Yeah.
Where would you get one, and which one should you buy? Like what? Like it's overwhelming.
I think if someone was to ask me that, I would say, look, go get yourself a Nesco. They're one of the better ones out there. I have two brands, the Nesco and the Excalibur. The Excalibur is really good, and I bought it because I was doing research on a book and I wanted to know the range of stuff. Excalibur is probably the Excalibur is definitely the better dehydrator, but it's only better by that much, and it's more expensive by that much. So the Nesco for me is the best one. Just really handy and works really well, and no complaints.
That's cool. I use a Nesco, and this interview was sponsored by Nesco. No, not no. No, I use a Nesco. Actually, my original one was actually my oven. I used to just use my oven and put everything on a cookie sheet because I didn't have a dehydrator. But then when I bought one, gosh, it was a Nesco. I bought it from Sears when Sears was around. Yeah, and I still have it, so it's pretty good. All right, so don't these things go bad? Dehydrate them and they go on a trip, and then 10 days you open up a thing of mold.
No, if you remove all the fat, all the water, and keep it stored airtight and in a dark, cool place, it should last a very long time. I get that question a lot. I can't answer it specifically because it all depends on how well you package the meal and how well you remove water and fat. But I've had meals last a full year easily out of refrigeration in that way.
All right, so what would you never dehydrate again? Like you might as well just buy it at a bulk food store or whatever. What is the one thing like never again?
Well, I've experimented a little bit with things that I knew wouldn't work. So anything with fat won't work. Avocados, too much fat. And actually, they don't just not dehydrate because they're fatty. They turn black and gross and disgusting. So they're off the list for sure. Yeah, avocados. They're, I don't know, 8 or 9% fat, something like that. Eggs are similar. Some people dehydrate eggs. I don't know why, but they do dehydrate. I've experimented with it, but I wouldn't trust them to be safe. They've got a lot of fat. The fat can go rancid, and they can also have salmonella in them too, right? So try and avoid eggs. Anything with fat, don't dehydrate. Everything else, including pasta and vegetables and meats, as long as you remove the fat, meats are fair game.
I tried yogurt. I tried yogurt as an experiment once because I heard that you could, and I didn't believe you could. And actually, it worked. I was really quite surprised.
Yeah, I stick to it, and I don't want to tell anyone to dehydrate anything with fat in it, but I stick to the 2% rule. Yogurt and cottage cheese and all that stuff dehydrates pretty well. I wouldn't try anything higher than 2%.
Do you make your own pemmican?
I haven't yet. I'm thinking that might make an interesting YouTube video. I might give it a shot. It's not known to taste very well, so I might try it just to see how it goes.
Well, we're talking about YouTube. Like, you've created a YouTube channel more than a couple years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it's got over.
Might have been longer. Yeah. I'm coming in on 40 now, actually 38 something. Yeah.
Why? Why'd you do that?
I had a friend. We have a mutual friend who was a YouTuber, and he got me into it. He said, "Kev, you're going on a." I was about to go on a family trip. He says, "Kev, you take a lot of photos. You take some pretty good photos. You now have a new digital camera, right? When digital cameras were coming out." He said, "Push that little red button instead of the bigger button once in a while, and shoot some video and try and stitch it together and make a story out of it." And I did. and I made a video about my family canoeing in Quetico, and I let it sit. I just shared it with some grandparents and people who might be interested in watching the kids. I wasn't trying to make an interesting video, just our trip. And I went back 2 years later and had like 5,000 views and a comment from you of all people and other people. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This could be fun. So after that, I started getting into it more seriously.
We got time on our side. We're in a state of home. I need you on my fire. I want you to know that every time you're away, I long for you so much I can find my way.
What keeps you going? Because you've done it for a while, and I know it's time consuming, and there's not a ton of money in it. But what keeps you going? What wakes you up in the morning and say, "I'm going to do a video today"?
I like a lot of different things about YouTube. Some of my videos are about dispelling myths, right? Like I've heat exchangers on a pod. I've got a couple of videos about that, and I've always enjoyed those kind of videos that where I learn something and I get a myth dispelled. So I like that. I like the editing. I like trying to tell a story with the camera on a trip video. And yeah, the dehydrating food. I like doing that. Those dehydrating food videos are twice as much work as everything else, but they're fun to do. They're fun to edit. They're fun to kind of think through. I can't spend 10 minutes cutting up this onion. I've got to like clip it up and make it in smaller pieces and make it interesting. I'm no Martin Scorsese, but I enjoy the process. I enjoy that learning something new and getting better at something.
That's cool. That's cool. So there's tons of recipes in here, but we'll get to that in a second. But I think the big part of this book is it's different. It tells you about dehydrating, not making or not buying your own, making your own. But also there's tons of other things like how to plan a meal plan for a bunch of people. How would you go about and do that? Because if you're going solo, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. But if you're with a group, how would you do that?
Yeah, good question. And in the book, I talk about some of my experience getting back to Scouts again. I started off doing really big trips with big groups of people. I've been to a couple big jamborees. Went to one in Australia. Did some development projects in Africa when I was younger. So we were camping as a group of 20 or 30 people, and we would do the kitchen patrol method, where you designate 4 or 5 people, and those people are doing the work for everybody else. That's not so practical on a recreational trip. My advice for a recreational trip is for folks to like get into groups of 3 or 4, no more than 4, and those groups should do their planning and figure out their own meals. 3 or 4 is the right size for most stoves and pots. Like you can get a bigger pot. You can bring a bigger pot into the backcountry, but it takes a lot longer to boil water if the pot's larger. Just it's much more efficient if you have a 3 or 4 person team rather than a 6 or 7 or 8 person team trying to cook.
All right, so let's get into the meals. The meals I've got from here, I see I've tagged them right. So one I'd love, Cajun corn chowder. Explain that.
I might have to look it up.
What?
It's so all my meals are kind of things that I try and do for my family. I crave diversity when I'm at home, and I crave it on a trip. So I will often repeat a meal maybe once or twice on a trip, but usually not more than that. And so writing the book, I did a whole lot of research, finding interesting stuff, trying to include like vegetarian dishes like the Cajun corn chowder. It's a Cajun corn chowder. I don't know how to explain it. It's got a lot of corn in it, but some other stuff, and it's got some Cajun spices, and it's different. It's different than what I'm have most nights, and on a trip, that variety really matters.
Well, what's the one meal that you keep making, kept dehydrating, packing? You every time you say, "Well, gosh, I shouldn't do that again. I should be different," but you still pack it.
Beef and rice. It's just It's just really good. And rice and beef and spinach and onions and canned tomatoes, like the diced tomatoes. There's probably not much else in that meal, and it tastes great. Maybe some garlic if you want to go crazy. Um, but yeah, just a nice meal to tuck into when you're done the day.
What about your staples like quinoa? Quinoa you use a lot. Pasta, rice, whatever, or bulgur. What are the main staples you use, and then build from there?
Yeah, I think you mentioned them: pasta, rice, uh, noodles. I like to experiment with Asian noodles, like the rice noodles or soba noodles. I've got a soba noodle meal in there that's really good. Um, it comes on most trips as well. And then yeah, go from there. I try and we live in a great age, so a lot of those meals are sort of, take shepherd's pie for example. There's a million shepherd's pie recipes on the web. I try and do some research and figure out what makes a good shepherd's pie. What are the ratios that are very popular, and do a recipe like that. And then I try and make it a little bit better for the backcountry. So onions like disappear when you dehydrate them. So I usually add an extra onion. If the recipe calls for one, I add two. My spices, if I'm going to cook it and then dehydrate it with the spices, I will usually put at least 1.5 times as much spice as the original recipe called for. Um, and those are some little tricks that help make that backcountry meal a little bit more like your home cooked meal.
Well, if you're looking at your for example, your lemon chicken, should
Yeah.
you dehydrate your chicken, or should you bring a can of chicken, or could you bring a canned chicken? Because some parks you can't do that.
Yeah, you absolutely could, and I really push the substitutions idea in my book. I have a lot of people comment. They say, I tried your recipe, but I substituted this for this, and I'm like, good. That's what I like to hear. Because it's about other people getting into the backcountry, right? It's not about, oh, did you copy my recipe word for word and execute it perfectly? I don't really care. Um, Dehydrating your own chicken can be a challenge. Chicken is one of those things that doesn't always rehydrate well. So if you were getting into this and starting out, I would definitely recommend bringing a small can of chicken or a foil packet of chicken. Um, Dehydrating chicken's a little bit more involved. I get a little bit fancy. I just did some on the weekend. I pressure cook the chicken first. I find it rehydrates better. And I'm learning still after writing the book, the longer you pressure cook it or slow cook it for. So pressure cooking for 15 or 20 minutes, slow cooking for 6 hours also works. So I pressure cook it and then pull it apart and dehydrate it. And it works really well. But when I pressure cook it, I'll throw some cut up lemons in there and some garlic. And so that flavor gets infused. So you'll miss that with the canned chicken, but by all means, whatever helps people get out to the backcountry.
Well, what about the egg war? Like you talk a lot about it, actually more so in your YouTube channel, the idea of bringing fresh eggs and getting them somewhere else as opposed to the regular store.
Yeah, what's interesting about eggs is that, and I only learned this a couple years ago. We have chickens. We've got about a dozen chickens, and we get our own eggs, which is great. And I've learned that those fresh eggs don't need to be refrigerated. They last a very, very long time without refrigeration. That's because they still have a coating on them, a natural coating. And in Canada, our store-bought eggs are washed and that coating is gone. And so they need to be refrigerated. In Europe, my understanding is that they do not wash their eggs. So stores in Europe sell eggs that are unrefrigerated. And again, they last a very long time. So if you're going to go into the backcountry, and if at all possible, you want to bring fresh eggs with you, bring farm fresh eggs that haven't been washed, and they'll last much longer. Now, eggs probably won't last very long anyway because they're in a very fragile container. But there's other ways to bring eggs into the backcountry as well. You can pre crack them and put them in a jar. That'll get you through, especially in the shoulder season when it's kind of cool out. And I like the egg crystals. I ironically, I have my own chickens. I have my own eggs. and I buy egg crystals. They're safe, they're reliable, and I use those for my trips.
Of all the chickens that you have, what's the name of the one chicken that lays the best eggs?
I don't know. I'm the chicken coop builder. I am not the chicken farmer. My wife is the farmer, and we don't name our chickens.
Oh, you northern, that's a cop out. It's a cop out.
It is. I'm sorry. I don't have a better story for you there, Kev.
No, I agree with you. I don't think you should name your chickens. All right. So what about this Bannock War that you had? Or Bannock, it wasn't a Bannock War, but it was a Bannock off?
It was a challenge, I think. I think it was a challenge. And yeah, I just made bannock the way I do it. Again, my buddy taught me his method, which was to knead the dough. His goal was to get a more bread-like bannock. So bannock's like a muffin style bread, right? It's got stuff in it that makes it rise without yeast, and it's all a chemical reaction, and it's a very crumbly bread. And that was my complaint once. And he said, well, if you knead the dough, you develop the gluten just like real bread, and it will still rise, and you can do that. And so Kevin, I cut my bannock with a knife.
Ooh.
because it comes out a lot like real bread. And if I want to slice a sandwich, I know this is wrong. So I'm not really making bannock. I'm making bread like bannock, or bannock like bread, or something. It's not real bannock, I guess.
But that means bad things will come upon you. Like you'll dump in a rapid, or there'll be more bugs in the porch just
because I did that. I'm a risk taker, Kev. Risk taker.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. So if you had to do the second edition of Backcountry Eats, what would you add and what would you subtract?
I would add a few more things that I've picked up. I maybe talk more about fat directly now that I have a better understanding of it, and an even better understanding of it. I would maybe dwell more on problems like chicken, right? Like, and just explaining that that's an issue. And I don't know, I might get rid of the drinks. I know there's 2 of your drink recipes in there. No one has talked about the drink recipes, so I might drop that just for space. And the whole stove section, I think people like the stove section, but again, I'm hearing about the method of dehydrating, and I'm hearing about the meals, and people love the recipes. So there's a few recipes I might drop and add some new ones. Yeah.
So people, they want more recipes and less how to do it. Yeah.
I think they like the how to do it, but people key in on the recipes. Like I made one video about dehydrating food, and I thought that's the last video I need to make, because I talked about the method of how to do it, and I explained the method in the book. But people do like the recipes, and they like to grab a recipe and follow it, and then alter it and make it their own. And so I find that really interesting. I don't know why I need to do recipe videos, but that's what people like.
Well, no, it is a recipe book, Kevin.
Yeah.
What are the some ingredients you have yet to experiment with, but you're like, I think this would be interesting?
Well, over the weekend, I have just started playing with pickles, and sweet pickles dehydrate very well. I know I said that in an interesting way. Dill pickles do not work. Dill pickles are too salty. I may try soaking some for like overnight and then try them again, but the flavors really increase when you dehydrate something, and a flavor like salt is really going to increase exponentially. But sweet pickles worked really well. I've done some peppers recently, that kind of thing. So I might explore some of those kind of recipes, condiment recipes, and try those things.
That's cool. I remember experimenting on limes, and now I never thought that would work, and now it's the big thing to put limes in your drink on day 20. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
What the heck is next for you? I mean, now you've got a best-selling book, you've got a really good YouTube channel, you have a lovely life up in northwestern Ontario, Thunder Bay.
Thunder Bay.
As a forest technician. Of course, you're going to quit that, become a full-time YouTuber any moment.
No, I don't think it pays as well as the day job.
Oh, well, what's next? Are you going to do another book or what?
I'm thinking about I had a 2-year contract for the first book, and I'll have to renew that in some way. And I'm thinking of doing a second edition and maybe changing it up. It is a self-published effort, and it does suffer from some of those problems that self-published books do. You pay good money for a copywriter, but you get a product that you're not 100% happy with. So I might take a run at improving the book, and I want to get back into tripping. I had a very slow season last year. Had some family things, had a kitchen reno that got delayed that filled up my August when I was supposed to be working in July on the kitchen, and that took away my August. So I normally count my days out in in the 40 night out range. That's kind of my usual, and last year was a goose egg. So I kind of want to rectify that this year.
Well, that's good. All right. Well, so we're looking for number 2.
Well, I'm not no guarantees yet, no promises yet, but I'm thinking about it.
Well, I'm putting the pressure on you right now.
I know you are.
All right. Cheers, Kevin. Fantastic. I love your book. It's a great book, actually. You know why it's good? Because I have a copy, and my partner, Christine, she just got her own copy the other day. Said, "No, I want my own copy. I'm tired of borrowing." Yeah. It's a good book when that happens.
Yeah, no, and that's what's happening. It's spreading by word of mouth, and couldn't be happier.
Great. Well, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Have a great evening.
Well, say hello to Thunder Bay for me.
I'll do that.
They're doing it. They're all doing it. They don't care if we're watching. Trees are having sex right now. So you guessed it, today on Kevin Outdoors, we're talking about the sexual reproduction of trees. Yes, another Kevin talking about trees video. If you came here for more on bears or gear reviews or dehydrated food, sorry, you're out of luck, maybe next time.